Hello everyone, this is Bill Bianchi with PDA Chicago in our continuing series of video interviews with our endorsed candidates. And today I'm talking with Judge Jamie Shapiro, who is the independent Democratic candidate for the Cook County Circuit Court, the 8th Sub-Circuit. Judge Shapiro has served about 5 years on the 8th Sub-Circuit, and he has an impressive legal background. And I'm going to read this so that I get it right. He's the former Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, Civil and Criminal Division from 1989 to 1995, and the Special Assistant Attorney General from 2000 and 2001. He's got an academic background as a teacher and a writer on legal issues, and he's been a sitting judge since 2007. Judge Shapiro, thanks for talking with us.
Thank you for having me, Bill.
Okay.
I'm honored.
Could you explain for our members about the Cook County Circuit Court, exactly where it fits into the big picture of the county's judicial system?
Sure, absolutely. The Circuit Court of Cook County is the trial level court in Cook County. That's where all cases originate, all cases filed in court originate, as opposed to one of the appellate courts, which review the Circuit Court for error, and then the Illinois Supreme Court, which reviews the generally reviews the Illinois Appellate Court for error. So all cases originate with us. There's about 430 judges, and that's what we do. Okay,
so what kind of cases have you heard in your experience on the 8th Sub-Circuit?
Well, I've heard most kinds, both civil and criminal cases, but lately more criminal cases than civil. I hear about 80% criminal cases in my current assignment: felonies, misdemeanors, traffic, bond court, and about 20% civil. I substitute in because I have a background in both civil and criminal at the both at the U.S. Attorney's Office and in private practice. I hear both civil and criminal cases, but predominantly criminal these days.
Okay. Could you briefly describe the boundaries of the 8th Sub-Circuit so people can get an idea where that is?
Sure. I call it the greater lakefront area. I don't want to say just lakefront because people think Lakeshore Drive, but generally it runs neighborhood-wise from Chinatown on the south all the way north to Edgewater. And it's the lakefront Sub-Circuit.
All right. Yeah, it's a pretty big area.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us about the meaning of this election? Now, I know at the primary is going to decide the winners and the losers in this race, but what is the bigger meaning of this race in terms of judicial candidates for Cook County and for the people in the 8th Sub-Circuit?
Well, it's a very important question. About 97% of the contested ballot in the Democratic primary will be judicial. The only contested non-judicial race countywide will be the clerk of the circuit court. But there's going to be at least 15 contested judicial elections in the 8th Sub-Circuit, about maybe between a dozen and 13 countywide. Starting with the Illinois Supreme Court, there's a very important race and a rare race for the Illinois Supreme Court, which comes along only about once every decade. The last one was in 2000. And then there are also 6 appellate court races, which are policymaking courts within Cook County. Of course, the Supreme Court race affects statewide policy, statewide judicial policy, judicial law. And these 6 appellate court races affect policy in Cook County because that's often the court of last resort, as few cases as the Illinois Supreme Court takes. And then about at least between a dozen and 16 circuit court races where I sit in Cook County. All of these races are very important. Of course, the Illinois Supreme Court is the most important race, and the Illinois Appellate Court second most important. There's the 3 of the 6 appellate court races will be contested, and about I'd say about a dozen of the countywide and sub-circuit races will be contested.
Judge, you've described yourself as a progressive. Could you tell us what it means to be a progressive judge?
Sure. I mean, generally, Bill, being a progressive judge, I would say, means looking out for the little guy a little bit more. When the folks who can't afford a lawyer, the folks who have to pay $165 in mandatory fines and costs for a traffic ticket without even the fine. That's before even the fine comes into play. I generally reduce my fines pretty low to account for the fact that they're paying mandatory fees and costs that dwarf the amount of the fines. I try to mitigate the harshness of that in any way I can. On the criminal side, it means holding the prosecutor to his or her burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, because the Constitution requires it. So it's not just an issue of whether the person accused did it or not, it's whether the state proved they did it beyond a reasonable doubt. In the civil arena, it means looking at following the law and making sure an unrepresented pro se plaintiff in a commercial contract case isn't at the mercy of a bank who can afford counsel. You follow the law, but whenever the law gives you the flexibility to decide something for the little guy, and the little guy should win on principle, and the bank is trying to keep out an important piece of evidence on a legal technicality, trying to look out for the little guy, watch out for the little guy's interests who can't afford a lawyer like the bank can.
Can you tell us quickly about the endorsements that you're most proud of that you have so far, and your ratings that you've gained so far in this campaign?
Sure. Besides Progressive Democrats of America?
Besides them.
Probably the most important politically and personally in the 8th Sub-Circuit is probably the Independent Voters of Illinois Independent Precinct Organization, IVI-IPO. I was very proud to get their endorsement. Of course, I'm also a former state chairman of the organization as well, so the endorsement didn't come as a complete surprise to me, but I was still didn't take it for granted, and I was honored to receive it. The IVI-IPO still has a great deal of influence in the 8th Sub-Circuit, the lakefront area. I was also recently honored to receive a rare, highly qualified rating from the Chicago Bar Association. They don't give it out very often because it's very difficult to get. You need 80% of the voting members in the room to get to vote for a highly qualified. You need a supermajority of the room to vote highly qualified in order to get it. So I was very honored to get that. And that the Chicago Tribune often goes by the Chicago Bar Association and the Chicago Council of Lawyers in its endorsements, and I'm hoping to get the Chicago Tribune endorsement on the strength of my bar ratings. I have the highest bar ratings in the race, and I think that makes me the most qualified candidate in the race.
Okay. Anything you want to say about your opponents?
Sure. My opponents are perfectly fine folks, including my slated opponent, my principal opponent, who's another sitting judge, slated by the Democratic Party. I think they're all, from my knowledge, pretty fully qualified. It's just a matter of qualified versus more qualified. I have higher bar ratings than all of them, including probably the most important bar rating from the Chicago Bar Association. I'm the only one with a highly qualified in the race. I'm the independent candidate as opposed to the candidate supported, slated by the Democratic Party. So I think it's pretty clear that I'm the most qualified candidate in the race and also the most independent one. But I have the utmost respect for my opponents for running, and I like them, I respect them, and I just think I'm the more qualified of the four of us.
And you're also the progressive candidate.
I am probably the most progressive candidate. I don't know the politics of all of my opponents, but on the strength of the IVI endorsement, IVI-IPO endorsement, and Citizen Action and PDA and Personal PAC, I think I am probably the most progressive and certainly the most independent candidate in the race. But I don't know the personal politics of all of them, so I don't want to compare. But I definitely do consider myself progressive as a former state chair of IVI-IPO.
Great. What's going to make in your mind, what's going to make the biggest difference in this campaign?
Well, I think probably setting myself apart as the independent candidate and communicating that to the voters of the 8th Sub-Circuit and distinguishing between my record as the independent candidate versus my principal opponent's record as the slated Democratic Party candidate. Also, really the bar ratings is probably most important, getting the message out that I am the highest rated candidate in the race. The Chicago Bar Association and other bar associations have rated me highly qualified or highly recommended. I think the Chicago Tribune endorsement is going to be very important, and of course IVI-IPO. I just need to get the word out.
A year from now, after you've been elected, and you look forward to 5 or 10 or 15, I don't know how many years you spend on the bench, what is the one thing that you'd like to say that you accomplished while you were there?
Well, I think the most important thing that I'd like to say, that I'd like to accomplish, is to have a reputation of being a fair judge. I think fairness is really the sine qua non of being a good judge. If you're not fair, I don't think you should be a judge, or you're really not a judge at all if you can't be impartial to both sides, not favor one side or the other. I think I've developed that reputation as being fair. That's very important to me, and Probably having a reputation as a fair judge. It was my ambition not just to be a judge, but to be a good judge. And to be a good judge, I think you need to be a fair one. Not a fair in a subjective way, but a fair in a truly objective way, that you have a reputation for fairness for both sides, that you follow the law and you hear both sides and you don't have a bias one way or the other.
Anything else that you'd like to say off the cuff to the viewers?
I'd appreciate your vote. I'd be honored for your vote if you live in the 8th Sub-Circuit. If you don't live in the 8th Sub-Circuit, if you know people who live along the lakefront, I'd appreciate an email to them. My punch number is 183. It's a pretty obscure race at the very end of the ballot. And I'm one of the last 4 races on the ballot, last 4 judicial races on the ballot, the first of the last 4. I have a website at judgeshapiro.org. You can research me further and get more information. And if you'd like to volunteer for the campaign, we could certainly use your help on Election Day and in the campaign office. I'm not allowed to ask for money because judges can't ask for money, but you can get more information about that on the website. And I just appreciate PDA support, appreciate their endorsement.
Good.
Yeah.
And I want to say to the viewers, it's likely to be a very low turnout because there's no big races other than judicial races, as far as I know. And what, the city clerk, you said?
The clerk of the circuit court,
clerk
actually.
of the circuit court.
Yeah.
And so your vote is really going to count a lot because it could come down to a very close margin. Okay, well, thanks a lot. I enjoyed talking with you.